Hi, and welcome to the I Teed Myself podcast. My name is Matthew Miniman, and this is episode 49. What can the Swedish chef teach us about Technobabble? So, with me today, I have Jerome Altoff again.
Hey, everybody. This is only our fourth try getting this started.
Woo! Take number 4. And I should really start recording that what I actually say in my shit and fucks on the tail end of my episodes instead. Instead of deleting them. But anyways, so Technobabble. We're here to talk about Technobabble. Before we get into this, you wanna give your nominal disclaimer?
Yeah, all of my opinions are my own and not my employer's or any association of that. Thanks.
And any representations of people are purely coincidental and should be viewed by no one.
We respect everyone's intellectual property and aspire to be as cool as they are. Swedish chef.
And so saying that, fuck Microsoft. So, wow. Just go off right off the top there. Anyway, so Technobabble. Technobabble is a concept where you will see on TV and films, and probably most egregiously in like Star Trek, where they end up just spouting off nonsense words that sound really techy or really sciencey, but in reality, when you string those concepts together, they don't mean anything. And like for a very good example of this, if you want to torture yourself with watching a TV show, watch the new MacGyver. Where they talk about how to hack a hard drive, because what they literally do is they just smash it with a hammer and go, we bypass the encryption.
Oh my. I mean, they got to the hardware. I guess. They can look at the disks. I'm assuming it was a hard disk drive, right?
Yeah. It was a spinning disk.
So, I mean, they get to look at themselves in the platters.
Yeah.
So inside of a hard disk drive, you actually have little like disks of usually very precious metal that's amazing. But it's very shiny. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
You don't need to know anything else. That's where all the stuff is. However, if you look at it, you just see yourself. You don't see the data.
Yeah, there's nothing there. And when you open up when you breach the vacuum sealed container of the hard drive, you break the containment of the magnetism that has basically accounts for the ones and zeros on the drive, and that fucks it over. And the Technobabble in that instance was, they're using a layer 2 encryption with a MD5 hash and 256 bits, and those are all things that kind of do relate to encryption or can.
We've all heard those on some news media at some point.
Yeah,
but them together
literally means nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't watched The Muppets, one of my personal favorites, Jim Henson belongs up in the Saint profile along with Carl Sagan and Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers.
And see, that's him babbling on about TV shows. He really just stopped at Sesame Street.
You know. But yeah, so Swedish Chef, he's a Muppets character, and his entire dialogue consists of mups and bups and pups. And that is basically the Swedish Chef. Anytime he's doing anything, that's what he's talking about. And it allows you as the audience to kind of come up with, what is he actually saying? And sometimes it can be really funny because he can be monstrously saying something and you're like, I get what he's saying, but it's funny because he's talking nonsense. This is funny.
Yep.
But imagine that in a boardroom meeting when you have a highly technical person talking at you. It's basically...
Or someone who wants to sound highly technical.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to watch that. Like, people can just start throwing out acronyms, which is a good disguise, or they start speaking very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see how long someone can go without breathing when they're doing technical. It's like, you know what, guy, I'm waiting to interrupt you, but wow, you're just going to go for 55 straight minutes.
Now, I will say that if you place a normal IT guy, generally a normal IT guy in a social situation, they're going to talk fast anyway, just to get through it and shut the fuck up.
I mean, there's a certain amount of anxiety that's sure, absolutely.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. You will hear individuals talk Technobabble when they want to appear like they know what they're talking about. And in my episode where we covered interviewing for IT, that is a good tell, because you'll have a person just start talking about nonsense in their interview, and if you don't know any better, it can sound legitimate. And you have to have some sort of background or somebody who can back you up and say, well, what you said was words, but none of them conceptually tied together into a reality.
Yeah.
So maybe you should try that again. You know,
I know you've mentioned OSI on at least one episode. So OSI, actually, I don't remember what that acronym stands for, but it's a way to logically break down the many concepts in IT. You have your transport layer, you have your data, you have session, all that. There's 7 layers. I'm not going to go through all of them, but a good way to question somebody just ranting is when they're jumping up and down the stack, but not like from 0 to 7 or 7 to 0. They're just grabbing terms they've heard that are applicable in each session or each layer randomly. And like, oh, really? Go on about your data packets and the user's experience.
Yeah.
What? No.
The data packets are affected at the application layer. Absolutely.
Yeah, directly.
Yeah,
100%.
directly.
As you hit the keys, you are changing the transmission unit. Yeah, the modem. No.
It's and this is the whole concept of when you are working in IT. One of the pitfalls that can arrive at you is your ability to communicate to other people outside of IT. And when you are talking competently as if to somebody else who is competent about the subject, it can sound like technobabble. It really can, because a lot of IT is just encryptions. In fact, I challenge you, if you are an IT guy, to have a conversation with another IT guy and not use an acronym. You will fail because you won't even realize that you're using an acronym.
They slip in.
Yeah.
But every profession's like that.
Yeah.
Like watching doctors talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watching engineers talk, mechanics. Like a lot of any one of these professions is the lingua franca.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, French for, and I might have said it right. My spouse is rolling her eyes. But the language of that profession. And professionals, once they start going, it sounds like technobabble to the outsider. Yeah, it probably isn't.
Yeah, and like you said, it's in every profession, except maybe pipe fitters. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever actually talked to a pipe fitter for a long amount of time.
It's in the profession of chefs, specifically Swedish ones.
Yeah, right. Boop a bop a boop. Oh, that's Italian. Sorry. Oh wait, fucking canceled.
Oh,
damn
goodness. Right mustache for that. Oh, whoops.
If I talk like this, to shake my hand.
Oh, no, the hand is there. Now, he's good. He's compensated, folks. He's compensated.
It does help that never mind. Anyways, so Technobabble and Technospeak in a conceptual format can help shorten communication with another professional, but it can increase the complexity of a conversation when you're talking to somebody who is not technically savvy. And what you want to make sure of when you're talking through Technobabble is you want to be very slow and demonstrative about your language. And for instance, if I'm talking to an IT director and I'm talking directly to them, I can talk about IP addresses, I can talk about a VPN and a TLS cert, and I can talk through all of these basic concepts. But and I can mention them quickly through the acronyms and through the conceptual ties that we use normally in IT through the normal parlance in IT. But when I start talking to somebody outside of IT, so for instance, if I then have to go and describe what I'm doing to the finance director, I have to use different language. I cannot say, so we're going to connect the VPN with a PSK using a static IP address, and that's going to ensure that our encryption is point to point, and at no point are you going to have your data exposed to external theft. So all of those things are legitimate and
but meaningless to the finance guy.
He's going to be like, cool, can you kind of dumb that down to me? And every time,
what's that going to cost? That's all I care about.
Yeah,
as an compliant, and what's the bill?
Yeah, as an IT guy, when you're describing problems and you're getting somebody to approve something, you want to make sure they have full buy-in and they are competently informed about the situation. Yeah. So, like when you're talking to them, you want to just kind of explain it like I'm 5. Give them the ELI 5.
in not just explain like you're 5, but like with words they're going to get.
Yeah.
The finance guy wants to know what the bill is. Are they compliant? And it also helps. I found with IT, I like to find out what my boss's or my other people's like interests are or hobbies, and I'll try and relate it to something if I know it well enough, something that makes sense to them. Because an analogy is great. Yeah. As long as you track that. The analogy is only good until you lift the hood. Then it starts breaking down.
Exactly.
But, okay, cool. I need this thing in this order. Yeah. Well, it's just like when you go camping. You got to set up your campsite before you go swimming. Yeah. And so we need the stack to be built, and then we can go to the website. Exactly. That kind of stuff. And that does help. Translating it to the other person.
And when you're talking as an IT person to another person outside, you have to over-explain in a lot of ways. You kind of have to. Mm-hmm. But it's very similar to how in the Muppets, when they're attempting to get the Swedish chef's point across, they over-exaggerate. Mm-hmm. They do things like make sure that you know what he's saying, because he's now like violently slamming pans on the counter. He's pissed and he's cursing, but it all sounds like boop ba boop ba ba. And you don't know anything about what he's saying, but you can summarize it. And so when you're doing that with like a finance professional, if I were going to describe a VPN connection to a finance professional, I would say something akin to, well, so we're going to set this up like you and your friend have a communication. You guys have a walkie-talkie, and there's a specific password you guys have to use to activate that walkie-talkie. Mm-hmm. But the walkie-talkies only talk to each other, mm-hmm. and that's basically what we're going to set up.
Yeah, and you and your friend need to hold your own walkie-talkies. If you hand it to someone else is in that private channel.
Yeah, and so
that kind of
But that's the kind of description that I would give to them mm-hmm. about how we're going to set up that VPN, and using those simple terms, it kind of gets the point across in a way that makes sense to them. And why that's important is key, because a lot of people skip over it because they're like, well, I don't have to explain it, because they should just know, right?
The why matters.
Yeah. The reason why you need to explain it in a thorough concept, and this is also for business owners. So if an IT guy is over-explaining something to you because he doesn't think you understand, there's probably a reason for it. In the terms of like finance and compliance, you need to, if you're not an IT person, you need to understand what is happening so that when you are asked by an auditor, you're not left like, I don't know what's going on. You are given an idea of the concept. You have at least a little bit of conceptual knowledge to say.
I have no idea what to use the website for, so I just built a website. Yeah. Not HIPAA compliant. I didn't know it was medical stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Awkward.
Yeah, and so when you're doing this and you're attempting to build your organization to last and be responsive and understanding to a situation, and specifically maintain compliance, you have to get buy-in from everybody so that they mm-hmm. understand and are able to applicably function within the environment. Now, that being said, there's a lot of reasons why IT guys will talk in only Technobabble. 100%. Some of them just don't want you to ask any fucking questions.
Yeah. I think that's 100% true. And that's where, like, if you feel like it's Matthew made a great point earlier, like, two techs talking to each other, it might sound like Technobabble to an outsider, but it's professional lingo. They're talking directly. But if they're talking to a non-tech, or they're talking to a tech in a different function, that's another thing. Like, you can Technobabble an IT guy to an IT guy if one is really big on networks and one is really big on like web or web servers or development. They could Technobabble at each other and not actually understand each other. Like, Technobabble is very subjective. It's not just professionals. But if you feel like the person's talking too fast or just flying to fluff you, ask them to slow down. Ask them to explain a specific topic. Yeah. And see how much it stutters them. Yeah. That's a good generic rule. Or write down some of the words and Google them. If they don't string together in Google, that's probably Technobabble.
That's true. And again, in another episode that I did, we talked about how Man, I lost my fucking train of thought now.
Sorry.
No, we talked about how when you are working through a man, I really can't go back to what I was going to say. Fuck, man, this is what happens when you live recording.
Sorry.
It's all good.
I will say I'm also distracted. We're recording in Matthew's garage, and I swear there's a toy.
Oh.
So we're recording in Matthew's garage, and that might have been a stutter because he proved we were in the garage by stepping on the compressor. But there is some child's toy just randomly squawking in the background, and I know it is because we have one of the same toys. Like every once in a while, I'll just hear like a rooster cluck in the background. I'm like, what? Kids, we have kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's distracted my chain of thought a few times. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, I did want to, before I forget, shout out the Star Trek Technobabble was part of what got this episode started, and my spouse shared this episode or video on YouTube from Ellie Cordova, where she did a Star Trek Technobabble rap. It was hilarious, and made sense.
Yep.
Brought me back to TNG.
Yep. Yep, the subspace isometer chips weren't properly isolated, and we have to we have to align the shields to the deflector shields to the same frequency as the lasers, and I
think the captain believed it, guys. We've got 5 hours.
Yeah, we've got 5 hours. It's the Scotty way of doing things.
Yeah.
So in the long run, one of the things that you have to make sure that you maintain when you're trying to parse language is you want to avoid being the Swedish chef. That's the end of. You don't want to Swedish chef somebody to where they're just like they get glassy eyed.
Yep.
We're whatever, dude. Yeah, it's just let's just go.
Yep.
And when you're coming into IT, it is important for you to understand what technical terms there are and how to use them. That is why, while I will never get the IT certification, no matter how many times somebody tells me to get it, because it's fucking useless. The IT
ITIL?
Yeah, the ITIL.
ITIL?
Yeah, the ITIL.
How do you say that?
The ITIL certification Foundation. It is important to get for people who have never been IT to get into IT, because it teaches you common parlance. And depending upon your function, it can teach you how to talk to IT without being IT. And so it is actually a good certification for non-IT folks, non-technical folks to get. So that way they at least understand the parlance of technology and they understand parlance of IT, or at least get some of it. It's not going to teach you everything, but at least give you enough ammo to be like, okay, I know what these words represent.
Honestly,
Hooray.
So I've sat it twice. I did version 3 and version 4.
Yeah.
Both times because I got a voucher for free.
Yeah.
I was like, why not? I'll tell you, for both of them, I studied about 35 minutes before the test and passed both times. IDLE does have a whole stack. People who get to the master's level, I am quite sure they know quite a bit of stuff in detail. The foundations class is not hard. So not to say like bad stuff about the ITIL as the whole stack, but the foundation class is pretty easy. It is literally just that dictionary, like Matthew's saying, and it breaks down all these terms you're going to hear: the service desk, what is tiering, what is the different functions, and I recommend it to all business or finance or everybody who knows that IT is part of their world, but is kind of like, that ain't my thing, not my interest, or I'm kind of scared of it.
Yeah.
Do the ITIL foundation, or you don't have to test. You can look up the dictionary for free, and it will help define a lot of the words you're hearing and a lot of the big topics, and it will change how some of the IT people look at you too if you're able to use some of their words correctly.
Yeah. If you're a manager, if you're somebody who's going to be managing head of a department, and you're going to be doing a lot of interfacing with IT, or you as a technical person are going to have IT underneath you, it is the certification to go get. Now, that being said, it's fucking useless for IT guys.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, because we already know it. We live it. We're in it.
I won't say that it got me out of work for 2 days for the boot camp.
Well,
that I totally focused 100%. I told you already, I studied for 30 minutes. I was fully engaged in spending your sweet tax dollars.
I love how my tax dollars are spent. So fucking funny. But
just watching his face fall.
It does bring up a good point, though, because you are, in the military, Technobabble kind of abounds in the military. You could rattle off an entire conversation speaking only acronyms.
Yeah, I mean, every staff function has acronyms. But we have HR, we have Intel, we have operations, we have engineering, logistics. We have all of them.
Yeah.
And going back to it, every one of them has their lexicon, and every one of them can go all babbly on you if you don't.
When an HR person starts babbling at me, I'm just gonna fucking quit.
Honestly, HR is what I usually bring up when my help desks or my IT cats get really pissed off about users not knowing something. I'm like, hey, dude, do you know how your pay works?
Yeah.
And usually I get a stare like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know, and I don't want to know, and I don't want to ever figure out how HR makes the magic happen. So when I go up to their help desk and I say, I didn't get paid, help me.
Yeah.
I want them to wrap their loving arms around me, tap me on the head, roll their eyes when I'm not looking because I'm an idiot, and that's fine. But I want their loving embrace to get my pay straight. Think about that when the user comes to your desk and is like, I don't know what the OFF modulator is. That's the on-off switch, guy. It's not going to work because there's no battery in your laptop. I don't even know how. I know words. Just pat them on the head, roll your eyes where they can't see, and help them get to their job.
Yeah. I just, I'm thinking about HR and how I've never run into an HR person spouting a massive amount of terms at me.
That's because you ran away screaming at the first term.
That's probably it.
We're going to talk about your retirement. No!
401k, what the fuck is that?
What's PTO? Do I want it? Do I not? Anyway.
Yeah. So, in the short run, if you have common terms in your own environment or in your own job that you're operating on, and you talk in a common parlance with another professional, IT guys do that all the time. It's more annoying with IT guys and exaggerated with IT guys because in the media that's all we're shown to do. The fucking engineering in Star Trek is the most egregious aspect of it. But for fuck's sake, in 2018 they created a new CSI called CSI Cyber. And I suggest if you want to murder yourself as an IT guy, watch that show because it is awful. Everything about it is awful.
I didn't know about that.
so
sad.
And they talk about they make fun of IT guys through showing how we talk, and that's basically how we can't conceivably hold a conversation unless it's directly about the job that's at hand or so on and so forth. It's just awful.
Some backhanded insulting.
Yeah, and none of the IT guys in CSI Cyber are any of the hot guys. Of course not. We're all the
you're checking out a little
neck beard. Hey, it's a new world. It's okay. It's okay. Sexuality is not a binary thing, my friend. All right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Everybody can be just a little gay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
some people can be way more.
Hi.
No, hey, fix that. No, don't do that.
Sorry, I got lost. I got lost in my own eyes and reflection off of yours.
I dedicated all the mirrors out of my house. No, anyway, another show that pissed me off, and we're way on a tangent now.
Yeah.
The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Everyone kept telling me, "Oh, watch The Big Bang Theory. You'll love it. It's so smart." And I was watching it, and I was like, "This show has a lot of well-researched, well-written stuff, but the laugh track doesn't line up with the smarts. You were always laughing at the nerds."
Yep.
And, well, quite honestly, that was bullshit. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a great show. It didn't inspire anyone to be smart because it was laughing at the smarts.
Yeah, exactly.
That was so awful. And now it sounds like I didn't know CSI Cyber was a thing.
Yeah.
I am sighing a lot as I say that. It hurts. But I can imagine it's the same damn thing.
Yeah, and if you don't want to fall into this trope, if you don't want to fall into the trope, like I said, make sure that you are not falling into being a Swedish chef. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you are having a plain conversation with somebody. And again, it is a good exercise to think through the acronyms that you're using because while they are common parlance to you, they may not be common parlance to everybody. I ran myself into a wall with somebody because I said SMB for I can't remember what the fuck the acronym stands for, because that's how often I use it and that's how common it is in. Yeah, it's.
I'm trying to remember what it is now too.
Yeah, right.
That's the other thing. You get called on it, you're like blank immediately.
Yeah, exactly. So the acronyms become part of the language is so much that it becomes difficult to separate it from your conversation. And when you're talking to somebody, if you're using more acronyms, and you run the risk of confusing them and losing them in the audience. Sure. Just like with when you are if you're watching the Swedish Chef and he starts babbling at you, you may not know what he wants to prepare you until he's murdering millions and millions of shrimp.
And that does happen. And if you don't know what each other is talking about, you go to murder shrimp.
I'm hungry now. Let's go get some calamari.
It is definitely lunchtime.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, guys. I hope you have a great day.